Hey B,
Hola.
how are
Hi.
you?
Good. How are you, Adi?
I'm great. I'm excited to talk about episodes 8 and 9. It's freezing over here, by the way. We're under I'm sure you saw this, but we're under a freeze warning for today. Well, mainly tonight and then some of tomorrow, but it's like our 2-day winter. But I think everybody here in Texas still has PTSD from last year. So we're just staying in.
Totally.
Yeah. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good. I am not in a freeze. I'm in sunny California. It was very sunny today, 66 degrees.
Mm,
Uh, I know, but it gets colder at night. But it we don't get what's going on. My parents, as you know, and to our viewers, my family is in Austin, Texas, and I live in Los Angeles. Very connected to Texas and my roots and ancestors there, and I was talking to them today too, and I, I didn't hear anything from them earlier today, but by the end of the day, they were like, I could feel that here comes the freeze again. Is this really the new thing in Texas? We're just going to have this week or a few days of just an intense snowstorm, and then it goes back to the dry heat. So who knows? You know, I it it's interesting to see what happens, but definitely people are all shuttering in. Everyone's like renting movies and hanging out at home. It's interesting because that's not the same here in Cali.
no,
It's-
no, of course not. But like everybody learned their lesson from last year and is over we're all over preparing so we don't end up in a bind that we did last year. But anyway, I am super excited to dive into these next two episodes with you. Everybody, for our viewers, we're covering episodes 8 and 9. And just really quickly,
yeah,
Brandon and I have not watched the finale. It has been very tough for me personally, Brandon. I went on Yahoo a couple of times and I was like, let me get off, let me get off, let me get off. So it was really hard. What about you? Did you see any spoilers? Did you kind of stay off the internet for most of the day?
Mhm. Well, I work remotely, so as you know, I'm very on the digital sphere a lot, but surprisingly, nothing came up on my Google. I did not get any spoilers. Facebook was very kind; nobody posted anything, but I'm excited. I have not watched the series for the season finale. I'm excited to see what happens. We are going to make some predictions at the end of this episode and of what we're hoping to see. And we're going to get into 8 and 9. But just for all our viewers, welcome to our fourth episode of Perspectives. My name is B, and this is,
Audie.
and we have a few guests here. We have Miss Cynthia Nixon, we have Sarah Jessica Parker, and Kristen Davis.
Yes,
Because
our girls.
it, if this is your first time tuning in or watching with us, we are right now doing a culture and entertainment podcast. But for the first few episodes, we have been reviewing the interesting, challenging, and I would say somewhat magical show, and just like that, the sequel series to Sex and the City.
Which has been surprisingly these last two episodes. I'm now officially a fan. I said in the second episode of Perspectives that we recorded that if they did a second season, I don't know that I would watch it, but my mind has changed. They've really found their groove. I'm getting more invested in the characters. I think episodes so far 7 through 9, maybe even 6 through 9, have slowly been an improvement, but these last two have been really, really solid. So I'm glad because I was, as you know, completely skeptical at first, but I'm excited to see where all these characters end up. And what about you? Any initial thoughts of these first two?
Yeah, we're I guess a retrospect so far for we're up through 8 and 9. Um, I'm really invested. I care about the characters. I always did. It's what's kept us going on this podcast in the beginning because there was a lot of peaks and valleys that really you had to kind of find something to latch on. And for me, it's been the characters. Um, but I reviewed episode 8 today. I didn't review 9 yet, but I'd seen it and it's still pretty fresh. But reviewing 8, something that was my, I guess, a good way to say initial response to your question was Number 8, I felt like I really enjoyed the TV show as well for the first time. I was watching the characters and the situations, and I felt, even though I know it's not Sex in the City, I, for some weird feeling, it was similar to how I feel when what kept me going back to the show. There was a familiarity, but it was the first time its identity and just like that peeked through, and I was happy to be watching this show, not the sequel to Sex in the City, but actually getting a chance to watch this show because for once I understood, yeah, they really are the same characters. And unlike in the beginning when they were in their 30s investigating what it meant to be 30s as a woman, they're investigating what it means to be a woman in their 50s. And I really think that is what is the truth of the show is it's not about them being old, it's not about them being young. In many ways it's about them being 50 in their 50s. And that idea I really had latched onto it. I was very enthralled because we don't I don't we talked about when Betty White died, Golden Girls. The irony is that that show was about 50-year-old women in the 80s, and they
Hmm.
dressed them up as grandmas.
Oh my
And I
gosh.
think,
Yeah. Yeah. I had no idea until that article came out. Anyway, continue. I was just kind of
well,
shocked. I'm sorry.
no, you're right. I mean, it was shocking to me too, because we're rewatching that show, me and my partner,
I
and
started
it
it too.
is,
Yeah.
and it's so interesting because they are 50-year-old women, and I do think that that show is trying to peel the layers of our psyche, and this show is doing the same thing, except it's doing it in a more glamorous way. Because let's get into 8 and 9. Let's talk about it because I love some of the fashion. The 8 and 9 had some fun fashion going on.
It really did. I have, in fact, if we're going that route, I have the throwback Paris dress because I love that she showed it to Cena. The big poofy dress that she wears, and it's like it's season 6 when she's in Paris with the Russian Alexander Petrovsky, and that she just sits at her windowsill with it on because it is a fabulous dress and one that I think all the viewers wanted to see again. And I'm so glad we got to see it. I absolutely love everything
Definitely.
Cena wears. I love everything. I think Cena just dresses so sharp all of the time. What about you? What stood out to you fashion wise?
Well, just so our audience knows, this little spoiler alert for everybody, we're going to be getting into
Yes, thank you.
episode 8. And then after that, we'll be doing episode 9. There is no censoring, unhold, unbarred conversation about all the spoilers that we're going to be watching. So the way we do it is we start talking topic to topic. We don't really, go scene by scene. If it's your first time listening, we're just going to kind of talk it as a conversation. So, all right, for episode 8, the first thing that stuck out to me is at the very beginning when Seema walks into Carrie's apartment and Carrie's sifting through her racks of clothing. That chocolate coat with just that top and that pants that Seema wore was so lush. I loved it. I was like, oh, I haven't seen it. Chocolate outfit just but it was also shiny because it felt like it was like a satin of some type of it just the textures looked really great. I loved it. It stood out for me.
I noticed there, and actually, this is one of the first episodes I really liked Carrie's fashion, like a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
loved the outfits that I love Carrie's like going out outfits. Like if she's gonna go to the club or if she's gonna go to like a fancy bar, she's not afraid to throw on some sequins. And that's exactly what she does. And I am all about those sequins. And she just
I
it,
am
it
too.
felt like a nod, it felt like an ode to old Carrie, but still but sophisticated to where the place she is in life right now. Whereas Cena, she always just looks very sharp. Everything's very tailored, but she still has a little bit of fun with what she wears. And then Charlotte, to me, they've done the best job fashion wise with Miranda. I've liked almost everything that Miranda has worn. Her jumpsuits,
Yeah.
they're having a little more fun with her as opposed to in the original series where they didn't really start giving her patterns and prints until towards the end of the original series. If you watch the first few, which I told you, so far viewers, I started the original series from the beginning. I meant to put it off, but I just had this itch to watch it, and But the way they dress Miranda's very kind of suits, navy, black, very like mid-90s businesswoman, but still very clean and tailored. And I love that they're having more fun with her and giving her more bold colors and patterns. And I mean, every time we see LTW, it's just, please. Every time I see her, from down to her nails, B, I'm just like, who is your manicurist and where can I find them? It's
I,
just,
I every time I see her, I'm like, I want to be like, just go up to her and be like, what fashion show are you at?
mhm,
What awards show are you going to? The outfits are immaculate for
they are.
LTW.
They are, but the only issue I have with it, well, not issue, I guess. I mean, clearly they have money. All four of them do. LTW, well, five. LTW, Cena, the girls, all of them do. The thing about LTW's wardrobe is that it does not look very functional. Like, I'm gonna wear these stiletto heels for drop off today, and I'm going to a PT. I mean, it's fine, but I'm like, how much are you really walking in these sky high stiletto shoes? And just that practical, I mean, but I guess the practicality is out the window. They just want these ladies to look good, and get fashion plays such a big part in the show that I think, I mean, we forgive it, right? But in the real world today, and you lived in New York, I mean, would
Yeah,
you be able to walk
but people.
around like that full on? I don't know.
Well, but what's so interesting? Okay, even at the beginning of this series, there was an episode. I think it was in the first episode of, and just like that, the guy was walking around with the lampshade dress. I feel they were at this restaurant and they walked by, and I believe Carrie looked and said, "I'll have whatever they're having," and the person was like wearing this like lampshade thing, and I kept wondering, is this real? I mean, do people? I mean, believe me, I know people are getting more and more bold with their fashions, but then I also think that that's part of the sartorial idea of this show. Is maybe that's why they're pushing it with these characters, is because through the costumes, which even though it is fashion, let's not forget these are costumes, right? These are their identity, and the costumes
Yeah.
say something, and perhaps not just about the characters, but I think about what the show is trying to say. And I think in many ways, it is a different costume designer. It's not Patricia Field. It is somebody that maybe is trying to say through these wardrobes, not functionality, but we all need to be bolder. We all need to be more elegant and just make effort to go into life dressing up, not for the sake of to appease anybody, but to express who you are.
And I totally agree with that because look, after a year or two of not really going very many places, I plan my outfits so far in advance now. It's ridiculous because I'm just so excited to get out and wear clothes, wear this dress that I haven't been able to wear in a year, wear this sparkly jacket, wear this leather jacket. Just, and winter here is like 5 seconds. So I think
Yeah,
that's another thing. It's, if anything, for someone like you and I who like to express ourselves through fashion, not having that outlet for what, a year, almost two, now it's just like, hey, you got this nice thing in your closet. Don't wait to wear it now. And I kind of feel like that's what the show's saying a little bit. Like, let's just go there. Because COVID is in the backdrop. It's gone, as you and I have talked about in the series, but they make it a point to mention we lost a year. Because so all these women have been through that and have been dying to get dressed, put on their heels, get their hair done, get their nails done, and go out there and be fabulous. And fashion is such a big part of the show. It always has been.
exactly. And they live in a different reality of New York City than not even just the real reality, but even if we were to suggest that this was realism to some degree, the reality of these women do not circulate in the reality that I would have been circulating when I first lived there and
Right.
that at the time because they all got money. Let's be real. These women are rich, except for I guess the one that's the professor. But I'm like, but you're still a professor. You still got some form of money, even though this is like she said in one of the episodes. She's like, it's not like we're really well off. I was like, well, you're a professor. I was like, I don't know exactly
Well,
what your salary might be, but you're there. She's obviously not as rich as the other characters, though.
no. And even the little clip that you see of their apartment in their bedroom, because her husband's a musician. So you kind
Exactly.
of wonder how much money is he really making? And their apartment looks smaller compared to the others because you do see it here and there in an episode, but she's a little more, her style's a little more bohemian, a little more loose, I guess a little more functional, like you and I would say. But that's a good point. She probably is out of the four of them, the, you know,
Yeah.
making
You know,
money,
I
but,
mean, 'cause
you know.
because let's get in. So we're going to discuss now, I think, a little bit more about what happens in episode 8, and I want to talk about Miranda because talking about different incomes. Episode 8, and I think this is, to be quite honest, we got Carrie as a focal point, and all three women are focal points, and I do think that they've really done some great stuff with Charlotte in terms of making her storyline really important too. But I do think right now this show is saying even Carrie is kind of taking a backseat to Miranda. Miranda is the agent of action. She is making a choice, and then I think that that's kind of what helped me understand when I saw this episode again. She's the only one that's actively trying to make choices. Each one of them, I think, is having to experience being a woman in a different way. Carrie is dealing with grieving and learning how to pull herself back together. Charlotte is in many ways having to maintain. She's maintaining being a mother, being a wife, having love. And then you've got Miranda, who is like, I want to change it all. I can't handle this life. I have got to she's literally, she's asking Steve for a divorce. I this is somebody that I think, you know, she too is rich. I mean, the house that they live in, he owns a bar. She was a corporate lawyer. Even though she's going to grad school, she in many ways is the most privileged of them all. And I think that that's ironic because even though Carrie's very privileged, she's dealing with something that none of the other three have had to deal with, which is she's dealing with like losing your love of your life and having to truly like rebuild your life. As she even tells Miranda in this episode 8, you know, being alone or being with somebody else may sound great in your head, but it's sometimes not what you imagine it to be when you're actually having to be alone. And I do feel, I don't know what's going to happen in the season finale, but in episode 8, Miranda makes a big push. She asks Steve for a divorce, and at the end, she's in a rom com trying to go off and be with Shay in Cleveland. How did you feel? I mean, what do you?
So I okay. So a couple of thoughts on this. I'm looking down. I'm referring to my notes. I kind of have my little just in order. So I do not buy that Che is in love with Miranda. I buy that Miranda's in love with Che. I do not buy that Che's in love with Miranda. That felt very
Mm,
forced. The delivery of it felt forced, and it felt like, are you though? So I struggled a little bit with that, and we'll see what happens. It just felt very out of nowhere. Do I think Che feels very strongly about her? Absolutely, but love, I think that's kind of reaching. Only because of how we've come to know Che to this point. Clearly, she smokes a lot. She has to mention it every single second she gets. She's sexually pretty free. Has I didn't quite buy that. But I do think Miranda loves her. The scene with her and Steve was just it was just sad. It was sad, sad, sad. It was very sad.
so sad.
Um, as someone who hasn't even been married 2 years, I barely hit a year a couple of months ago. It was just, I mean, just playing it back and just the fact that her whole thing was that she's unhappy. And I get that. I get that she wants to go off and live her life and everything, but just Steve kind of being like, this is marriage, this is our life, this is what it is. I don't have a problem with it. It sucks that you do. Like, not like that, but that it really he thought they were happy. He thought they were fine. So that was I that hurt. It really did. It was I found it just more sad. And I do think that while Miranda is following her heart and she's exploring this new part of her identity and wanting to run with it because she's been this, we've known her as one person for so long, that's fine. But I do think she's acting a little selfishly, just reckless. And that's because of, and I think she's just getting caught up in the whirlwind of it, you know? Who says I'm in a rom-com? Who's gonna go straight to the airport after they just told? I mean, that's like that's so not Miranda. That's not the Miranda we knew from the original series. She was a cynic. So to see this side of her is interesting, but it's also we also I think I'm also looking at it from the reality of the situation where it's like you are being a little, and Shay even tells her, I'm not a homewrecker, so you got to deal with your thing before you even try with me. And I did really appreciate Shay for telling her that, and I think it needed to be said. And there's also a child involved, and it's like, how are you going to break this to Brady? Where does he factor? And that didn't even come up. Maybe that doesn't matter right now. I don't know. Maybe it will in the finale, but it just it was sad. And there's been a lot of, as you know, a lot of reaction to the what is it, Justice for Steve, which I don't really agree with that. People seem to forget that he's already been unfaithful to her once in the movie. But this is a new chapter. The movies, I don't even think the movies exist in this universe. Because this is a universe. Do you agree? Or is that just me?
Oh, I think it's a full universe, but I do think the movies are a part of it. I do feel
You do? Okay.
because
Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
because they bring up that Lily still is the kind of the one who, you know, I've heard in interviews they bring up they ask the question, is Lily, the real enemy to the story in terms of how she messed with the
Yeah,
phone and
because
the
she had
first,
the phone.
yeah.
She absolutely is. She absolutely is. It's her fault. I'll stand by that.
So so I I feel like they do play a cause because I mean, without the movie, Carrie would never be married to Big.
That's true. That's true. So, okay, so we've established it is a part of this universe. Okay, that's
I do
fine.
think now, not to throw some shade at them, I do think they probably would like to not have the second one be a part of
Oh God,
their
I
universe.
pretend that that didn't happen. No, I think we all pretend. I think true fans all pretend that that didn't happen.
That was like fan fiction. That
No,
was like
absolutely. No, but
that was Sex in the City in Abu Dhabi.
so that's a whole other podcast speed because there's so many things wrong with that movie. But that kind of tells you why Kim Cattrall was like, I don't think I'm going to do this anymore. And when you think about the second movie, it's like respect. I get it. But overall, I found it sad. It's sad the place that they're in, Miranda and
Oh, it
Steve.
is.
Very sad.
It's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking, especially something happens in episode 9 that we'll get into. But episode 8, you're starting. We, the audience, are finally. We've been watching Miranda make irrational choices this whole season, and I do not say that in any negative way. It's just understanding the story in an irrational, logical way. Even that's why she had to dump the wine. That's why she's had to reevaluate her choices of her job and all the things that she's doing. She's in an irrational state. And I feel the reason why there's such a hubbub for Steve right now from the fans is because we, the fans, finally were all Steve. Him listening to her, and he asked the appropriate questions. Psychologically, he was getting into her brain because none of us understood Miranda's brain. We didn't understand. It's not even about I understand the love between Shay, but even Shay just thought it was an open marriage, which, even to Shay, I don't think Shay really wants Miranda to leave her husband,
No.
because
Oh, I don't think so either.
and I think that's to go to your point. I do think Shay loves Miranda, but I think Shay's identity of love is so far more complex than a traditional normal idea of love. And so in theory, I do think Shay loves Miranda, but I think Shay loves Miranda as perhaps in a very open relationship, that Miranda is an extension of that love, but is not the full love. Whereas Steve sees Miranda as his love spirit, which I don't want to get into 9 because we'll talk about it more. But what he says in 9 really reflects why I think he's just so like he asks her, is this really like, he's even caught off guard. He's like, what is happy? Because she keeps
Hmm.
asking him, are you happy? Are you happy? He's like, what is happy? That I don't think him and marriage is just about being happy. Marriage is something much deeper for him in a way that I don't think Miranda feels that same way, which is why Miranda is being so aggressive. And I really think that that is the core of what it is, because for Carrie and Charlotte, I think marriage meant something. Not that I don't say Miranda didn't respect marriage, but I do think when I hear Miranda saying she's not happy, I don't think she's happy with the identity of marriage. And the other two, marriage wasn't feeling like their husbands were locking them up to a life of destitute. It was because they believed marrying their husbands was part of taking whatever that relationship was to the next level. And for Miranda, even if you look back at Sex and the City, getting married to Steve was just something it almost kind of felt like she had to do versus being the same, which is why I feel the real identity is not about the love between her and Jay. It is really about Steve and Miranda's marriage. And it's just so sad to see them dissolve it, because I do feel that Miranda sadly is not, I think the way she was handling the conversation could have gone such a different way. I feel she could have approached it in a different way that wasn't pandering to trying to act like the issue was the marriage, when really it wasn't the marriage that's the issue. It's Miranda's finding who she is in her own life.
Yes, and you're this. I feel like I've seen that before. This whole Miranda felt like she had to marry him. I personally disagree with that. I never really felt that she married him because she felt like she had to do it. I think they genuinely wanted to get married. That's why their wedding episode is one of my favorites. I think it's a beautiful, beautiful episode. So to kind of hear people, and that's fine. I mean, I understand everybody's going to have different opinions on this, but I personally don't agree with that aspect of it. I really do think that her and Steve had a very, very good thing going on for a little bit. And yeah, you're exactly right. It's Miranda not being able to, just going through changes that Miranda's going through and can't. And Steve would have understood if she just framed it differently, like, "Hey, I'm having these feelings. There's a woman." Blah blah blah. Like, I mean, I don't know if that would have softened the blow, but
But I think that I honestly think if she had went into that conversation and said, look, we're not having sex anymore. We're just not. And we tried and it didn't work. And I don't have those feelings, but I met somebody and I need you to know that. And I've started something with this person. And if you can give me the space and freedom to figure what that is, just know I still love you. And hopefully our partnership can weather whatever this is. But is there an opportunity for me to explore both? I feel like Steve would have been open to that conversation. I feel like Steve could have been, because it didn't seem like sex was the thing that he wanted either. I
no.
really think an open marriage could potentially work, because in episode 9, he kind of confirms what I'm feeling in this matter, because he sees Miranda as his other half. And I don't think sex is what his identity. The thing is they've built a home, they've built a place. He's like, and he almost kind of tells her in episode 8, we have to go into our lives and we deal with all our ups and downs. When I come home and I'm sitting at the TV eating desserts with you and watching TV, he's happy because he's not having to think about the bullshit. In so many ways, he's trying to say, you could go fuck whoever you wanted to. And as long as you're coming home at the end of the day, we get to have some desserts once in a while, I'm good with that. It's weird. I do believe I've met people that have relationships like that in their life at a certain point, that it's evolved there because they've realized that one relationship can't fulfill everything. But I think one relationship in a marriage is enough.
Yeah.
It's a
And
different compact.
he's obviously not as sexual of a person as he was the way we saw him in the original series. Maybe he's just reached that, and he's older. They've clearly shown that with the hearing aids and just his overall appearance. It's
Yeah.
just like that's a really good point. It sounds like, did you write that down? It sounds like you rehearsed that yourself, like that hypothetical speech that Miranda says
No,
to
that
Steve. Why are you in
that
the
just
writer's room? That would have been so much better.
well, it would have been much better, but I think that we might be getting there because I
Yeah.
agree. I really don't think going into whatever the season finale is, this is not even making our predictions. I just, even in episode 8 I was watching, I don't think Che loves Miranda the same way.
No, I don't think she does at all. I really don't. And I think Miranda's going to find that out.
Yeah.
It's just, yeah. I mean, look, overall, though, I am glad that she came clean to Steve. That was the one thing she did need to do that. She had to tell him something.
Yeah.
Did she, like we just said, did she handle it in the best way? No. But I'm at least glad that she said something because she needed to, and he did deserve that.
He did. The truth needed to be set free. And
Um,
I also
yeah.
appreciated I wanted to just say one thing to what you said earlier. I really did appreciate Che's character when Che realized, I'm not a homewrecker. I thought this
No.
was something else. You never said anything. And Miranda's like, well, you never asked. And Che's like, okay. But you could have at least cued me in at some point. Now you are. This is just not who I am. And I do think it speaks volumes to the integrity of this character because
Yeah.
everybody's had something to say about Che,
Oh, yeah.
and I will say, whether we believe Che is a real person or not, the character has integrity in the show because I think that character literally the episode 8 begins at a queer rally for equality amongst not just gay lesbians but for all types of people, and to see Miranda hide as they're literally saying to the audience, when you hide you lose a little bit of your light. That to me, I didn't think it was heavy-handed from the writers. I really thought it was to the point because it was, as you're saying, episode 9 and episode 8 are really, the wheels are going, and I like it. I like that there's action. I like that what we've been setting up so far, there's conflict arising from it.
Do we, and I don't know why I keep harping on this. Maybe it's just me. Why is Brady at the rally? Why is he there?
He's a Gen Zer. I think Louisa's there. Obviously, Louisa is into activism because even Louisa was at the random painting of the building place in episode 9.
That's true.
You know?
That's true. That's true. That's true. Okay. Then that must be what it
But
was. Because I was just like, this does not seem like something Brady would be at. But okay, then we'll just say it's because of Louisa. And I don't know why. I was like, no, I need to know why he's there. Y'all need to set that up to why he's there.
well, one thing. Let's talk about the kids because I know,
Oh,
you know,
God.
I'm not even trying to get into too much, but Lily's a big part of episode 8 and
Lily's
episode
great
9.
though. Love Lily. I
Lily
don't know
is
why.
great.
Love her.
I love her too, and you know why I love her? Because I think that what they're saying, Rock is this one type of Gen Zer that is trying to go through the transformation. And then you've got Brady, which is doing the other extreme, which is he's got a loosey-goosey mom that allows him to have sex with his girlfriend in the house. And I think what the show has been trying to say with the Gen Zers is we don't understand them because they're growing up with different people. They're growing up with a different type of generation raising them and raising them with different ethics. And so then comes Lily in episode 8, which I think she was a fantastic. I really enjoyed the conversations between her and Charlotte because for the audience, just so you know, Lily is helping Carrie archive a lot of her wardrobe. So this episode kind of centers around that relationship, and all the while, we get to kind of see Lily and Charlotte's relationship at the same time because this episode had a lot of penises. I will say,
Oh yeah.
I was shocked, and so we get this episode where Charlotte is about to give Harry a blowjob, and Lily walks in, and the door slams in front of her, and Charlotte lies to her and tells her, "Oh, I was just checking for cancer."
Yeah.
And I will say the side note in a second, but it's really interesting because it opens a door for a conversation that the show gives some of the most subtle but most impactful stuff to Kristen Davis's character this year. Because honestly, she's talking about something that we all knew Charlotte had issues with talking about sexuality in the original series, and she's afraid to pass that down to her daughter. She doesn't want her daughter to be afraid of sex. And we get this interesting conversations between the two of them. But side note, I don't know if it was a prosthetic or not, but Harry got a big schlong, man. That was huge. I was like, no wonder she's with Harry. Okay, I get it.
Well, and she and Harry have always had a very healthy sex life, even from the original series. Always, always, always. And that's one of the things I've always kind of loved about their relationship is that
Hmm.
you had her with Trey, who she was previously married to, that couldn't even get it up, and then she marries this total opposite of what she thought, but it's the best sex she's ever had. So it's good that they're keeping that up and that they still have that in their relationship. I love No, I love it. And she probably didn't have to lie to Lily about it, but that's still the I guess the prude and Charlotte where she's like, okay, I can talk to you about it, but I don't know if I want to go here with my daughter just yet. Um
I agree. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. That's kind of, you see like that little flutter of her that's still there. That's still doesn't
She's
want to
still a
quite talk
mother.
about it. Oh, absolutely. And
And I think in that moment, she saw her daughter when she was like, "So did he really have cancer?" And you see it in her face that she's like, "Oh, girl, it's like Santa Claus. I'm not going to take Santa Claus away from you right now. Just
yes,
believe a little bit longer that I was looking at your dad's penis for cancer."
exactly, exactly. But I love that. I love that they shared
I
that,
do
and
too.
Lily still has that innocence, and the way also we have to remember the way they got Lily. They
Hmm.
adopted her. She came from China at the point where they just had it with fertility testing and treatments. And so just to see them have that bond, and she's grown up into really this beautiful girl who is a talented, to me, they would never say this outright, but she's Charlotte's ideal, like, I hate to say it, but ideal child. You know what
Totally.
I mean? Pretty,
Which is, yeah,
smart, artistically talented. I mean, yeah, yeah. Shouldn't have to worry about her. That
it
sounds. I know
shows.
that how that sounds, but you get what I'm saying.
No, it totally makes sense. It is, children are more than just blood. I think
Mhm.
children are a reflection of who we are. And Lily clearly photocopied into Charlotte, even to the point that she wasn't comfortable to tell her mother that she started her own private Instagram account to be able to post photos of her looking sexy in gym
Yeah.
clothes. And not that I don't think that that's all she's posting, but she clearly wanted to be able to have more edgy photos on her other Instagram than probably the ones that her parents monitor on her personal account. Which, to be quite honest, you and I did not grow up with those lessons having to
No.
be learned.
And
And yeah,
B, I'm not even kidding you. When I saw that whole that scene, the conversation with them when they're at lunch and she sees it pop up on her phone. The most my mom ever saw, I think, was really like a dirty email. You know, when you first got email, like when email first became a thing, there was all that
yeah.
spam going on. And I was just like, I would have no idea how to even begin how to monitor if I had a child their social media account. I don't even use Instagram myself. I would have no idea what to do. And that's what these parents are having to deal with now. I
Yeah.
just that is a whole other level of expertise that I don't know. I don't want to know it anytime soon, but that really was an eye opener for me. I'm like, oh, this actually really happens. And Charlotte does have a right to see it. I mean,
Of
I'm sure
course.
she pays for
She's
the
only
phone, I
15.
assume. Like, I mean, gosh, yeah. That I did love that scene though, and hey, the phone was in the middle of the table. It buzzed. Like, yeah, your mom has every right to kind of look at like, hey, who's calling you? Like, you're
Yeah.
15. What's up? Yeah, man.
We talked about this earlier when in one of the earlier episodes. You were always and I were both agreeing. We hope the kids don't overtake the show, but they haven't. I think that they really are an extension of what the women are going through, but they also are reflecting what I think Gen Z is having to grow up in. And the one thing is that I found appreciative is okay, dealt with a kid with Instagram. I agree. I think if you're a parent today, that is a lesson you have to navigate through the waters of raising a child. But at least it wasn't something over the top or dramatic. It just was about, hey, I don't want you to lose all of your innocence. I get that you're wanting to look, and even Carrie. So Carrie gets to have a sleepover with Lily, and Lily gets to have Auntie Carrie listen to her, and Carrie, I think, can kind of explain to Charlotte what Charlotte can't hear, which is your daughter's a woman now.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying she's going to want to be sexy and everything, but that's part of finding your identity is how do I look? How do I express myself? I want sometimes when you post a photo of yourself looking good, it's not because you're trying to show off. Sometimes it's for yourself to believe I feel good to look this way. And that's why I look this way.
Yes, absolutely. And she needed that because it's like you said, her parents still see her, her mom in particular, still see her as very innocent. I mean, she bought her own dress for the concert, you know, like a dress,
Yeah.
like, let's buy you matching dresses and let's do this. And I mean, it's precious, but she's only got a few more years of that with Lily before. And Rock, she's already kind of lost that ability because we're seeing the transition that Rock's going through. So, okay. Oh, and I even put that. I put full frontal shot, loved it. So yes, I was definitely. You don't
We
see
got two of them.
yeah, you don't see male full frontal enough. So anytime I do, I'm all about it. I'm not gonna lie. And speaking of Charlotte, I did. Carrie is becoming a better friend. You see her as a better friend in these last couple of episodes. She's finally listening. She's not making it all about her. Which, granted, her husband died. I totally get it. But you're we're seeing that compassion that she hasn't had and that she didn't have a whole lot of in the original series, but I like that she's kind of asking how her friends are doing and let's talk and yeah, I'll take and the fact that she calls Charlotte and is like, hey, Lily's here, she asked, is that okay? I mean, really, we're finally seeing a softer, kinder side of Carrie. Taking what was it in that might be in episode 9. Never mind. But overall, in her relationship with Cena and her downstairs neighbor, you're finally seeing Carrie just being a better friend to people in general. Because we haven't seen a whole lot of that in the first couple of episodes.
And you know why? Because she's smoking cigarettes. The
I
real
think so
Carrie is
too.
coming out.
Oh my god,
she's walking around her block. We
I
love
love
her in
that.
her
I love that
grandma
ritual.
outfit because believe me, I did not think about it until I saw it. But here's the thing: when you live in New York City, you see those women, and you never realize why they're wearing the scarf and the gloves and the coat walking because they don't want to smell like cigarette smoke. Never thought of it that way. Just it was like, oh, makes total sense. It's not just oh because I want to look this way. It's I don't want to smell like smoke.
And she does it outside. Whereas, hello, she was Miss Marlboro Lights for most of the Carrie that we knew, just smoked constantly in the apartment, in a nice dress, outside, with Big, after sex, before sex, all of it. And so now, but I kind of dig that she's picked it up again. In a different way, in a more health conscious way, because obviously it's a vice. She's never really been able to let go of it. But she's like, guess what? We're gonna let myself have what one? We're gonna take
One.
a little lap, and then we're good. Then we're good. But that's Carrie. That's the vice she can never really let go of. But I'm here for it. I kind of love it actually.
I do too. I think it's interesting because this was definitely a softer Carrie. She was the auntie witch. She took Charlotte to the brownie shop where she asked Charlotte, do you think Che loves you? Are you willing to destroy everything for Che? She goes to her downstairs neighbor and blows out a candle, hoping that her downstairs neighbor will not burn down the whole house because her downstairs neighbor was drunk and passed out and the music was playing loud. Let's talk about this downstairs neighbor. How did you feel about her?
I really like her because she's what
Mm-hmm.
Carrie was in 1998. She's
Yeah.
except more just in a. I mean, we know that she's an influencer. She makes jewelry. Carrie's super into fashion show, so it's kind of a match made in heaven. She has this edgy, mysterious downstairs neighbor who has this talent that I love. That Carrie's like, hey, this stuff is really good, and I love that she gives her the ring, and she's like, will you wear it? It would take a picture, tag me on my Instagram. I like. I mean, we're seeing her late though. So I get the feeling we're going to see more of her possibly if there is a season 2, which I'm pretty sure there will be. But I like it. I like that we don't know too much about her lately, but I like the bond that's forming between the two of them. She's obviously in a really fishy relationship that she doesn't need to be in, and I'm hoping we explore that a little bit more. But so far, I like it. I wasn't
And
expecting to, but I like it. What about you?
when you're young, we've all been the people out on the stoop or outside the apartment complex laughing too loud sometimes.
Oh
And
God, yeah.
you just go to those people one day and you apologize, or you just say nothing to them because sometimes those people are crazy. Or sometimes you get a carry and you create a relationship and you're like, sorry, didn't mean to be so loud. I
Exactly.
loved her character. I thought she was interesting. She felt real. I loved my favorite outfit is the one she wore, the sheer outfit that she's walking down the stairs and with the big boots, oh, the
Yes.
hippie style with the, oh, just she looks so cool. She
Well,
was a
and
cool
that's
character.
she's a cool character, and that's what Carrie would have worn and did.
Hmm.
We saw a version of that. So to me, the interpretation I'm getting is that when Carrie sees her, she sees herself, like that young, late 20s, early 30s. She sees a little bit of herself reflected in this woman. So I'm excited to explore that relationship and see
Me
where it
too.
goes.
I
Yeah,
totally agree. I think it's a relationship that is going to develop into more of a story in the second season if they go on to do a second season because it feels like a character that has more room to be developed and give Carrie a way to talk to younger people because Carrie has been so centered around people her age, and it would be
yeah.
interesting to see her have more younger conversations than Jennifer Hudson in the
Oh
first film
God. Oh.
because Carrie used to be the young person, and then as the show originally goes on, she's always around people that are either older or around her age. But the first younger person that she really talked to is J Hud and
Louise from
girl.
St. Louis. Louise from St. Louis. Oh God. So ooh, 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 ooh. We might have to do a podcast just on the first movie alone. Okay, one last thing, because I just saw this in my notes. I'm gonna rewind just a little bit back to the Steve and Miranda scene. One thing he said that really stuck out to me, I'm too old to fight for us now.
Ooh, good throwback. Hmm.
I'm too old to fight for us now.
Yeah, he couldn't rally for her anymore. He
No,
just,
no.
I think he took the route that he's not an old grumpy man. He's just, that's his love of his life. And
Hmm.
at this point, why even? I think he makes the smarter choice. Why even fight for it when you know probably most likely whatever this relationship between Miranda and whomever is probably not going to go the way she thinks it's going to go,
No.
and he's just going to be there whether even Miranda ever were to go back to Steve or not. It doesn't matter at that point. He doesn't
They
that
got a
line
kid.
stung.
They got a kid
Yeah.
too. They're permanently in each other's lives. But that's the I saw that in my notes and I figured I needed to say it. And I do think Harry is going to have a health scare again.
Yeah.
You mentioned didn't you said it in the first because he has the whole colonoscopy. They cancel it. Colonoscopy is a standard thing, but you can sometimes that can lead to something else that maybe you weren't aware of. I don't know.
I don't
Maybe.
know what they. I think he's still Charlotte's sidekick.
Yeah. Okay.
He's.
Okay.
I.
Maybe.
But he might have the health scare. They keep alluding to it. The first one was the colonoscopy. Then the second one was the lying to Lily about checking for cancer. Um, it would be interesting though if Harry went through something like that. I think the actor could have some interesting scenes to go through that. But the reason why I don't know if they would do that is because they killed off Big. So I don't think they want to put
Yeah,
another
that's true. Oh, I don't
male
think they would
character.
kill him. I think it would be one of those like, oh, Harry's getting this procedure done. It would be like covered in an episode type of thing. Episode maybe two or something like that.
Maybe
Yeah.
that would make total
I don't
sense.
think it would be a major storyline. I think it might be something that comes up later on. Any final thoughts about episode 8?
I'm trying to think. Is there anything else that sticks out for episode 8 that we wanted to talk about? Oh, have you ever had Fat Witch brownies?
No, what is that?
So you can order them online. They're so
What are they called
good.
again? I need to write this down. What is it?
Fat Witch brownies.
Fat Witch brownies. I mean, they sound incredible. So this
They
is
are
a New
incredible.
York thing. Fat
Hmm.
Witch brownies. Okay.
They started in Brooklyn, but they're all over New York City. They're like $10 brownies. They're pretty pricey, but you can get boxes of them. But they have a certain way of whatever they put in the brownie mixes that they put in there. It's just they're so sweet and so creamy and yummy. We got a friend of ours got us a pack of them to bake, and we baked them one time, and they were just
Okay.
so good. Yeah,
This looks
check them
like you
out.
can
Fat
give
Witch
some
brownies.
cool gifts too. So I'm all about
Hmm.
that. Thank you. Okay. You just gave me an idea. I like it. I like it. I like it. I like it.
Yeah, I think we've covered pretty much everything though for episode 8. I mean, it was cool to see some of that shot of the Paris dress though at the end, her eating
I
Jiffy
love
Pop,
it.
so great.
Hmm. You have well, she has all these clothes and she bought all this shit for Paris that we all know she didn't really wear that long. She wasn't there very long.
Nope.
But yeah, that's a dress. Even if I had that, I don't think I'd get rid of it either. I'd be like, no, I'm gonna save this because you never know. Maybe
Well,
I could
it's something that immaculate. You know, you're gonna want to wear it at least a few times, and
exactly
not all right back to back. But I
a
mean, it
black
needs to
tie
get some
wedding.
mileage.
There's
Yeah.
always a gala. There's always, I mean, who knows? I think maybe I even, yeah, no, you can't give away a dress like that. It's just completely gorgeous. So let's move on into episode 9.
I do want to add one side note because I've been
Yes.
meaning to say this, and it's just about the show overall.
Yeah.
One of my favorite things about the show is the songs that play at the end of the episodes when they cut to credits. They have been selecting some great songs at the ends of the episodes. I sometimes will just listen to the music at the credits playing. I really like. They had like Annie Lennox one time.
Oh,
They've
here
had.
comes the rain. That was after the first episode. I was like, oh, I love it. Yeah, that was perfect for that episode of what was going on. The music has always been a really, really, really solid part of the show. Always. I've always
Yeah.
enjoyed the music. Although there was no Todd Rundgren, no instrumental version of
Bye.
Hello, It's Me. Yeah, I think we're officially done with that. I think we're officially done with
No,
um
and mark my words, I'm pretty sure it's coming back in the last episode, episode
probably
10.
well, I don't know. His remember his clip was cut,
True. It's true.
but they'll still probably play it just because he's gonna
Yeah.
come up in some way. We so that's the one spoiler we do know. We know that something about him's gonna come up. She's gonna spread his ashes. Something. We'll see. So now we're on to episode 9, and so here's. Do you mind if I just do my initial? Well, let's do
Go
like
for it.
initial
No, you
thoughts.
go
Okay.
for it.
Okay. Love the downstairs neighbor. I didn't realize how famous Shay was when her and Miranda are at the diner and she has like 2 random little influence coming up to her. Oh my god, let me take a picture. Da, 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 da. Bina is lovely and I want to see her in more scenes with the girls. And I loved that Carrie being a good friend, took her out and was like, it's your birthday? We're not waiting in a damn line, girl. We're gonna go. We're gonna get you a nice piece of cake. It's just I love their friendship. I really, really, really love it. And Miranda is doing the most, and I don't think it's gonna work. I just don't think it's gonna work. Oh, and we'll get into that. Speaking of fashion, why are these bitches so dressed up to paint? Can you please, Brandon? You and I did many a painting back in the SFA days. For how many sets? I've lost count.
Too
Okay,
many.
if we were to ever show up in a full-on white paint suit and not get it dirty and with heels, no. Steve surely would have kicked us out of the shop. I mean, it's just
Oh,
for
of
those of you
course.
who don't know, it's one of our faculty members. But yeah, anyway, that really bothered me. So, what were some of your initial thoughts?
None of them felt real about putting on this. We're going to get all these people to show up and do this building.
No.
I mean, the only one that felt real was LTW when she showed up and was like, well, I can get a caterer because I believed This is a person that's a director and a person that does producing. Believe me, New York producers know where to get you food, because
Event
if there's one
planning.
thing, if you're going to do it, you're going to feed people, and they got people on Rolodex because there's always an emergency. That was the only one I believe, because I believe that she showed up, she was there to take photos, and she was dressed up. She wasn't going to go paint. She wasn't
No.
doing none of that. But no, the other women, I mean, that's the thing about the show. I at this point I've had to accept that Carrie, Charlotte, and Miranda are not real people, but they are real people. But they're in the sense of they're so bigger than life now. These characters in this reality, but that's why they dress the way they dress. They don't live in like a normal average day. To them, even if they're gonna wear, like when Carrie in one of the episodes was wearing like socks and shorts and a shirt, she still had to have like a fashion twinge. Like everything is, it's the
Over the
world they
top.
live in.
It's over the
Yeah,
top. It's
it
not
is.
based in reality, which you have been saying that since the very first episode that we've covered. And at first I didn't quite get it, but now I understand what you're saying. Because it's true. They don't live
No,
in reality. They live
no,
somewhere else.
they do. They live in their privileged world. It's like
Extremely.
Succession. I don't know if you've ever seen the show Succession, but
No,
the
and I'm
characters.
probably not going to. I've heard it's good, but I cannot watch a show about some crazy rich white people just acting a fool. I can do it. I don't have the energy right now. I just don't have it. Maybe someday, but I don't know. I
It's
think
good. I mean,
yeah.
I felt the way too, but I guess the reason why I brought it up is what's so interesting and fascinating is those characters feel real in our world, but they live in such an unreal reality that you can only access if you have tons of money, where you're not thinking about how much does it spend or how do I live with the budget or do I have to pay this? You're just thinking I get to do whatever I want to do, and I'm just gonna post and live and be free. And I think that that's something to aspire to. Episode 9 for me, one of the things I really appreciated was that it had a lot of the subtleties that I really enjoyed about what Sex and the City. It had subtle comedy that led into really funny
Yes.
comedy. The stuff with the period with Charlotte, I thought was
Oh my
hilarious.
gosh. I mean,
Hilarious.
oof, and that is some real, real shit because the box is not really going to tell you much. So you just have to. And God bless Charlotte for going there with her and being like, okay, we're going to do this. I'm going to show you. I mean, and poor Lily, like, you need that when you're 15 and you're just like, I have no idea what I'm doing. And now I'm going to do this. And a pool party. Okay, I get it. Like, you don't want to
Of
miss anyone's
course.
pool party. You don't want to miss any pool party in that situation. You just have to figure it out. And I love that by the end, Charlotte was like, just fucking put the damn thing in. Just do it. That's it. Like, and then she finally got it. But I loved that whole montage. I absolutely loved it. It
But then
just,
I love then how after Charlotte has lost everything, the comeuppance for her is that she has her own period and she's wearing a white
oh my
jumpsuit,
gosh.
and then the friends have to cover her up. But it was so funny without it being gross or all about it. But it was
Yes.
just so subtly funny because it was the irony of what the show. These characters sometimes it's not bad things, but life throws them curveballs just like that to just remind them you're still fucking human, and that's what I love. It was just one of those moments. It's like you can get frustrated with your daughter all that you want, but you don't forget having a period can suck because it can come anytime. And it got Charlotte because she thought she was done. She thought she was done with her menopause. She was all like, "Cool, I'm good to go." And
And
life threw her.
that is the way Mother Nature works. Just when you think you've completed it, it's like, no, I'm just kidding. Take it back. I'm sorry. And that's such a good point because it wasn't gross. It was just funny.
Yeah,
And all the women finally met. Finally. We saw all of them meeting. LTW met Carrie and met Miranda. Naya met Charlotte and finally. So I think that's setting us up for these women are going to be around each other more as a group, not just scenes of Cena and Carrie, scenes of Miranda and Naya, scenes of LTW and Charlotte. You're going to see all of them together more than we did before.
and
Does
I
that
also
just me?
No. I agree 100%. I think we're going to see scenes of more of them interacting, but I do think Seema is still Carrie's OG new friend in the sense that because they're both single and they can get each other on a level that Carrie has history with the others. I wouldn't, I mean, maybe we'll see Carrie and LTW or Carrie and Naya have conversations maybe down the line if the show goes on. But it's interesting that Carrie really, Seema, even when she got there, was like, I ain't gonna paint. I'll sign a
No,
check. I'm gonna
and
go sit over there.
we both know that she's not going to be single too long because they've planted the seed of that club owner, which I'm all about. I'm like, yes,
Hmm.
girl, get you a sophisticated man who runs this club and is going to let you in. And he's also in the original series as the guy who works at the Prada store when her and Burger go. So they've recycled, yes, because I saw an article and I was like, oh, so we have seen him before. You know, HBO likes to recycle their people, and I can't even
Oh,
blame
they
them.
do.
They love it. I mean, when you're on the HBO roster, like you're good to go. They might bring you back again. You never know. You never know. So let's keep that in mind for our future. Let's just get in with
I,
let's get in good with HBO.
HBO, it's a family for a reason. You know, they pick you up.
Yep.
I really enjoyed the club stuff with Seema and Carrie because it was really cool to see them be denied and then at the end be able to find access into the new club and they walked in just in power because believe me, it don't matter what age you are. Anybody standing in a line, it sucks. It
Yeah.
sucks waiting in line to get into a club. I hate it. I do not enjoy doing
I
it.
I
I don't
don't
ever
I
really
don't
do
do
it.
it anymore. No. If,
Maybe there.
look, and you lived in New York and you live in LA now. I live in Houston, and I sure as shit I'm not going to do it here. Anytime I see people doing it, I'm like, what the hell are you doing? I'm like,
No.
no, no. It's just not. There's nothing okay about it. I don't do lines. Whatever it is,
I
it's no.
I'm not in my early 20s anymore. I'm not trying
No.
to get in the hot spot. And honestly, it feels better when you go to a club when you're invited or when you just go to a club because you know you're going
Exactly.
to go in there because you know whatever. I don't even like to go to clubs just to go bump and dance unless I'm really in the
No.
mood to go dance. And if I'm going to go dance, I want to go to a place where I want to dance comfortably. But at the same time, like, I, you don't, I just, the clubs is really for a couple of reasons. And
It's
I don't really do
exhausting.
that.
It's
Yeah.
exhausting. I mean, it unless you have like unless you have it like Elsie from the Hills, where you're gonna get bottle service and a guaranteed seat and a camera crew, and that's why. That's the only way to do it. It's
It's also
just
expensive.
oh god, it's expensive as shit. So yeah, I loved that. And I think, I mean, obviously they planted the seed to where we're gonna see the two of them get together. I'm pretty sure that's the direction that it's going in. Because even their
Yeah.
little meet cute, whenever she's smoking the cigarette and he comes out and tells her, "Oh, I work for this." I mean, yeah, they're already planting the seed. Let's talk about. There's two things I think I want your thoughts on. The Miranda showing up to Chase with what is she? What is it? Bagels? It's
No, with cookies.
some that's even worse. So like she shows up, she's doing the most.
She's
I
doing the most.
I think it would have been more believable had Shay had someone there.
I actually thought it was believable
I
because
think
I was
well, yeah.
because Che is such a muppet of a character that it was nice to see Che being somebody that's just at home being. I just want to take care of my art right now. I'm trying
Yeah.
to write,
And you want
and
to
you're
be
coming
alone.
here. Yeah, you do. When I'm writing, I actually don't like having anybody around me. It's either I like to write in the middle of the night when Chris is asleep, or if he's not here. Because honestly, as you get more proficient in your writing, you just need space. That's really what it is. You need space from distraction. And I mean, and Miranda is a distraction. Let's be real. She's
Yeah.
kind of a distraction. I I enjoy Cynthia Nixon and I enjoy the ups and downs of this character. And I feel that when they approached how they were going to write this character this season, it was about wanting to make her a complicated woman. Cool.
Yeah, which
I'm
is
cool
fine.
with that,
Love
which
it.
is fine. But it's just sometimes over the top though. I just the scenes. Like when she's like walking down the stairs, like, I gotta go, I gotta go. I was like, calm down. Like I
Well, that's
felt
what
like
Chase says
Jay.
to her. That's what Chase says
Yeah.
to her. She's like, you need, or they're like, you need to chill out. They're just like, you need to breathe and let's talk about it. I don't know. And the thing is though, maybe it's because Miranda's falling in love with her or is in love with her, but I'm like, this isn't you, girl. You would never pull some shit like this without so much as a text first. You know what I mean? So that was just a little out of nowhere. And then we see the scene of them having a date at the diner. These two children, because that's what they were, are like, "Can I please take a picture with you? You're so amazing. Oh, you slept with my friend." Da, da, da. We
Oh,
both
you
know
slept with
that
my friend too.
exactly. So that's gonna go somewhere. That's gonna be brought up because you can sense Miranda's uncomfortable, like discomfort with that whole interaction.
When you
But
can
hey,
even see Che's face when Miranda calls Che their girlfriend.
yeah,
Because Che, I don't think is anybody's girlfriend or boyfriend because they're non-binary.
yeah,
So
they're
what
not
is
trying to
the
do all
term?
that.
If anything, they'd be a partner, probably.
Partner.
And then B, once again, this goes back to what Che is. I think that this is why Che is written the way. And it's what we were talking about earlier in this episode about what the costumes are trying to say. I think what they're trying to say with Che is that Che is like an alien to us as a character because Che is fundamentally has integrity, and I believe that that's why Sarah Ramirez is doing a great job because I think the actor Sarah Ramirez is approaching this character not judging what Che what's written that Che is supposed to say. I think Sarah Ramirez is saying this is this character, and this character has a code to themselves, and that code is if I'm going to be non-binary and be this mouthpiece for queer nation, I'm not going to lie. I'm going to be who I am. And I think that that's why it's inevitably not going to work out between the two of them because Miranda doesn't get, even if Miranda were non-binary or Miranda was really open to it, the only way actually for Miranda and Shay to work is as an open marriage. Because I don't think even if Miranda and Steve actually do get a divorce and separate, it ain't gonna be like Shay's ever gonna invite Miranda to go live in their house and shack up and be married. Shay is an open marriage type of person. I think even Shay would have an open marriage if they fell in love with somebody, because that's just they seem like there's this book I read called The Ethical Slut. They're a polyamorous type of person. Shay is like a discourse in a human being
Oh,
of the
that's so
ethical slut.
funny. The ethical slut. That is a thing, isn't it?
It
That's
is.
the
It is
perfect way
totally
to
a thing.
describe them. Man. And okay, the scene with Steve and Carrie.
My
Lots to
favorite.
unpack. It's a lot. It's a
I
lot. It's
actually
a lot. It's a
think
lot.
I think it's actually probably one of my top five scenes of this entire show.
Ooh, he does a great job. He's honest. He's genuine. And she's just reacting very genuinely and just sad for him, but also confused because you see that Carrie wants to support her best friend, which anybody would, okay? But also like, but I was there at your she was there at their wedding. She's been with Miranda and Steve since the very beginning and knows Steve and has developed a the kind of friendship you develop with your friends, boyfriends, partners,
Yeah.
whatever. But still, it was sad. And I thought SJP did a Josh did a nice job in that scene. That was a lovely scene. And him getting the
That
ring out for her, I mean, it just I don't know.
that that last moment when she does what Carrie does best. She plays the devil's advocate to her best friends, not because she's trying to oppose them, but because, as she even said in episode 8, I did like this word that she said when Charlotte was talking about how to talk to Lily about the Instagram, reframe it. Carrie likes to help people reframe their ideas of where they're at, because she doesn't. I think Carrie, at the core, maybe this is just me reading into it, is one of those people that knows you can't live by the book, but that's why she writes books, to help us reframe the way we see things. And in this whole entire episode, Carrie is struggling with letting go of Big's ring and her wedding ring. And she can't, because, just as a side note for our viewers, we'll get into this. It's not the main thing, because I want to keep talking about Steve and Miranda, but Carrie, once again, with the professor, doesn't go on another date. And so she's kind of at this vulnerable place at this moment with Steve, where she can see in Steve's eyes when Steve tells her, I'm never going to take this ring off. He's never going to be with another person. He's never going to leave another person. He is going to always be just knowing that the one person, whether she's there or not, is still his wife, Miranda. And to see that in Carrie's face, she didn't say anything. That to me was what some of SJP's work. It's why we love Carrie, because she can tell a story, and just a way she can look, and you can see the character thinking like, I can't be this. Because then immediately the next scene, she takes off the rings and she puts both rings away. And it tore me up, because I don't think it was, she respected what Steve was saying. I don't think she wants Steve to change who he is, but she realized it's not even like Big is still here. That's why she had to let go of the ring. Because even if Steve and Miranda never get back together, the truth of the matter is Miranda's still here. That's why he can't let go of the ring.
Yeah.
Because he knows deep down, I think he knows Miranda, even if they got divorced, Miranda's still going to be in his life.
Mm-hmm.
And to him, that is enough. But for Carrie, she doesn't even have that. So what are you holding on to? You have to let
Away.
go. You
Mm-hmm.
do. There's nothing to hold on to. At least he has that. And it was such a good moment, because it was reflective work, I think, for the writing team, about, we're learning about Steve, what his real intention is, but it's being reflected back at getting Carrie to a place so she can finally bring closure to Big.
Yeah. Oh, without a doubt.
And I really appreciated that Carrie didn't run away from the conversation. I also really appreciated that Steve didn't come off as too pushy. It felt like two people, as you said, they know each other. And I don't really know, can't recall how many times Steve and Carrie are alone in a scene, but I do think it's finally good to have them have a very strong scene that's just the two of them, that speaks
Mm-hmm.
volumes to their friendship. That even though they may not be in each other's lives, they still care about each other. He helped her with
Yeah,
her ring. She gave him truth. And I think that's earnest.
I think so too. And he was really good friends with Aiden, who was one of Carrie's other big loves. So you see them, she developed a little more of a relationship, maybe more than Charlotte would have, or even Samantha. And so there is that level of comfort there, I think, where he feels like he was in a safe space, safe enough to ask her, like, hey, where did Che come from? And did they meet through you? And I mean, it's a fair question to ask, and not even accusatory, like you said.
Yeah.
Wasn't too pushy. Just this bomb has just been dropped on me. I just need to know some more information.
Yeah.
And then that's it. That's what we're left with. He doesn't even get angry. He doesn't get he just it's like he's accepted the reality. And I think you hit the nail on the head, because he knows she's gonna be in his life regardless.
Yeah. They weren't even having sex already.
No.
So to him, it's just another step in their evolution of their marriage. It sucks. It hurts that he doesn't, that being and coming home is not enough. But
Yeah.
I hope, this is what I really hope for. And it's not even a prediction. I just really hope that they knock Miranda's story out the ballpark with this last episode,
I hope so
because
too.
she was kind of bonkers this last episode, and not in a good way. I know they were making the Meg Ryan jokes, but I just, she's getting to a point where I worry, is the character becoming too unreal? Because I think that my concern and the reason why I say that is I think even people when they're cheating or they are navigating their relationships, it's not so 1 to 100. She's just like left and right, like, oh, I gotta go. All of a sudden, Chase, like, I just am trying to grasp that you're here. And she's like, I gotta go, I gotta go. I'm like, girl, you got some serious problems. You're drinking. It's more, I think it's a line that she said in episode 8 that it speaks volumes to. And this is the reason why, you brought it up. You don't agree that she didn't really, that you don't agree that you don't think she didn't want to get married to Steve.
Mhm.
But I think the line that she says in their conversation in episode 8 is the reason why I feel that way. Because she says, she's like, she doesn't know if she ever really ever wanted to be married or wanted any of those things. She says that to him. She says, I don't know if I ever really ever wanted it. And I think that that's why I feel that Miranda isn't just queer. It's something that I think has to speak to something that probably happened to her character's childhood, something that evolved her into this way that she made choices throughout her entire life to resist ever actually wanting the thing you actually want. I think it's why she comes off bitter in the original Sex and the City show. And then she comes to this show, and to be quite honest, even though she can be saucy, not because of drinking, but can be kind of sharp, she's really kind of more nice and more approachable as just a character in general. Even when she was yelling at Shay, she was being a protective mother, but she wasn't being mean about it. There are times Miranda could be kind of an asshole in Sex and the
Oh
City.
gosh, yes,
They're like
without a
not
doubt.
just to her friends, to other people. Even in that first episode, she's kind of an asshole at times,
Oh,
and even
absolutely.
to like Skipper.
Even
Like
to
this goes back,
Steve and Skipper. Hmm.
especially that's the only reason why Skipper catches her eyes because Skipper mans up and does something that puts her in a way that she at least has somebody for a moment that makes her challenge her. Because I think deep down, Miranda's character is too afraid to even have ever begun to ask herself, what actually makes you happy?
Yeah.
And I think that that's why I don't think even being a lawyer was going to make her happy. That's clearly not, she was making filthy money. She didn't even want to be a lawyer. She tells us that in the earlier season that she's talking to Dr. Naya. I want to make a difference. I think it's almost kind of like the hero's journey for Miranda, but the only difference is she's a 55-year-old woman wanting to be the hero of her own story, and she never realized you were always your hero. Everything you did made you a hero, and if you can't at this point accept that, then what the fuck was it all for, man?
Yeah.
And I think that that's what it's why the audience feels the way they feel with her because none of us know what the fuck she's doing. I don't really know where is this going because it's not really about love with Shay. Because if it was about love with Shay, there was so many other ways she could have approached that conversation. But the writers keep writing her this way, and I'm just trying to go for what? Where is this going with her?
Yeah. Yeah. And she's been the most complicated one, even from the very beginning, from the first episode of and just like that, it's like she wakes up and she's in an entirely different universe. The Miranda we knew, there's not even a
Yeah,
trace of her there anymore. And I think that's why it's just so weird because you still see traces of the old Carrie, the old Charlotte, not Miranda at all. And it was a lot at
no,
once, a lot at once. And they really push, I feel like they try to push all of it in the first couple of episodes. And then they realized, like, oh, wait, we got to spread this out a little bit more. So it sounds like they're backtracking now. So I'm very curious to see what's going to end up happening in this season finale. I do see what you're saying. I haven't had enough time to really think about it enough. I think I'm just, and maybe I'll see how I feel after the finale
yeah. I mean, this is all perspective. I mean, I think
perspective.
this finale,
Yeah.
this finale, I think will wrap up hopefully at least chapter one of whatever the show is,
Yeah.
and will give us some finality. Um, but before we get into to those predictions, um, is there? Oh, I just want to talk about Naya, because this episode 9, centers around Naya's relationship,
Oh, yeah.
and that was like a big reveal. I actually kind of, I mean, I think both actors did good work. I
I,
kind of feel bad for Naya. I feel bad for both of them because I think sadly, You know, I think the best friends that I have in my life that have successful relationships, they all are very agreeing on what they want with children. I have some friends
Yeah.
that they don't want children at all, and that's why they're very happy. And they don't. It ain't nothing gonna change their mind. They know each other. And then I have some friends that do want children, but they may not be ready right now. But they will make that choice whenever they're ready. But they've had that conversation. To me, it's ironic that, I get it. I think that it doesn't. Even if Naya, I think, could have children, I don't think she really wants children. She doesn't come off
Okay,
like she really wants to have them.
but Brandon, she did in the beginning. That's why I'm struggling with that whole thing. Because now all of a sudden she's flipped. You remember the first couple of his episodes, that's all she talked about when you saw her with Miranda. Now all of a sudden it's like they switched roles, but there's not enough context to back it up. So I
Yeah,
kind of have a little bit of an issue with that. It's like all of a sudden it's just flipped. Whereas literally 2 episodes ago, he was just like, just relax. It'll happen when it happens. And she's like, well, you want to try again, blah, blah, blah. And now all of a sudden she doesn't want, like, no, I think it's bullshit. I don't like that change. It doesn't, it just kind of came out of nowhere. It came out of nowhere. And
we
there's
did, and
not
this is
enough contents to back it up.
one of the criticisms that I will give to the show about the time jumps. I think it didn't do a disservice to Naya because we find out in, I don't know exactly what episodes, but we find out that she begins a second trial of IVF again. And she
Oh
tells
yeah.
us when she first meets Miranda, oh, I'm about to start this one. I did it. It was really hard. She's like, oh, I had a friend that went through that. And then we time jump because Carrie writes a book and all this other stuff. And she's like, then we find out that she tells through Miranda finding a text message, or no, Miranda texting her. I think it was in episode 7. She texts her saying, um, so sad that it didn't work out for you to have another baby. And that's how her partner finds out and gets really upset about it. And I think that if they have were to show us what actually she means as a character when she says it's really hard on her body, I feel we would have more empathy, because perhaps that could be why. It's not that I don't think she didn't. Maybe the idea of having children was what she wanted to some degree, but the wear and tear that it's done on her body, and how much more disappointment can I go through? Because for some people, having a kid is just, oh, hey, I got
No,
pregnant.
it's true.
You know,
It's true. And that's a good point. They're doing a lot of telling and not enough showing. And if they're gonna
yeah,
make it into, if they're gonna put it into the storyline, you gotta. It was like the whole thing with Miranda and Steve. We didn't see their lack of physical intimacy until what, 2 episodes ago, and then she kept talking about it. So I'm like, no, we got to see something with Naya. Yeah,
yeah,
that's kind of why I struggled with it a little bit.
me too. It's interesting, but I will have to wait and see what happens. I mean, I do think that we've been talking about it. Her storyline to me is, it's the one that's a little all over the place, kind of like Miranda. Miranda's whole storyline is like an abstract painting this whole season.
Yeah.
I,
See, but my whole thing with Naya is that I don't think it's all over the place. I think that it seems like there's so much more to her than just this one thing that they're focusing on. And I'm just kind of like, why bring in this great, like, new character? I don't know. And I struggle with those storylines with women in television. It's like the whole, like, we have to have one of them struggle with pregnancy. Like, do we have, like, I get they're important stories to tell. I totally get that. But sometimes I'm like, no, there's so much more to it than that. I want to see a little more than just that. But I do realize it's only 10 episodes. It's still new. She's a minor character. But do you see what I'm saying? Like,
no, totally, and I think that that's the point why maybe they didn't show us her going through
maybe,
IVF
yeah.
and the pain. But then when you have scenes where I don't know the actor who plays her partner, but when he tells her, I did like what he said. He's like, I'm starting to think maybe I shouldn't work so hard to not feel like I don't want to have children. And that's to me, I was
Okay,
like,
yeah.
if all your scenes were about really just the figuring out between the two, do you guys want to have children or not? I don't think they even had to do the IVF stuff. I feel
Mhm.
like it could have just been interesting, but it's interesting. I'm intrigued. I'm interested. We're obviously talking about it. That's why I brought it up.
No,
But
obviously. Yeah.
I want to know where it goes. I really do. I want. just want something a little bit more for that because I love the actress Karen Pittman. I think
She's
she's so
great.
great, and there have been some scenes